What's up, y'all? We are reviving the Hunt the Front podcast. Each week, we're sitting down and recording a full-length podcast over on HTF Nation on Patreon. Got an hour and 10-minute long podcast over there right now. We're going to do our best to upload some clips over here on YouTube here and there as well. If you enjoy what you're seeing here, check out HTF Nation on Patreon for the full podcast. It's patreon.com/huntthefront to get signed up. Link is in the description of the video. Want to talk a little bit about the, I don't know what we called it, collaboration.
Yeah,
between our team and Capital Race Cars.
That was my idea. Calling it collaboration instead of partnership.
And I don't think we really knew what to call it exactly. They called it when we first got to Eldora the first night, debuting the car. First night was the Flow race, not the first night of the world, but the first night of the 4 nights at Eldora. Flow, they were calling it the Capital House Car.
Yeah.
It is not that. And I think you corrected them.
I did. So the next day, I talked to Ben and DJ in the media center. Yeah. And just said, hey, we're not technically calling it the house car, right?
Not, in my estimation, it's not a house car.
And that opens a whole debate over what is a house car, right? I think when we think about house car program, when you hear house car, you think of, to me, Rocket. You think of the Rocket One team, and how that program is pretty clearly ran. I don't know if it's out of the same shop as Rocket Chassis, but it's ran in conjunction with
building Rocket.
Yeah,
chassis.
Building Rocket Chassis, and and that's what we think of. You think of, I personally think of Don O'Neill and the Masters Built house car for years and winning championships and winning at Eldora and everything, and that was the Masters program, right? And he drove for them, or to some degree. I think that very rarely anymore are house car programs, done that way. And I don't know, maybe back in the day most of them were, but the what a house car is, anymore is being loosely defined anymore. And I would say, the idea there is if that program is to help develop the chassis, right? Try things, give feedback to the chassis builder. The chassis builder says, hey, we want to try this. Mm-hmm. One, to be fast, but also because we're wanting to try, see how it goes.
Development, research.
If you are, as a team, a racer and program, helping in that, that these days seems to be lumped into house car. But I would say that's not what this deal is.
You're seeing the name change or people terming it different ways, like the
Longhorn factory.
Brandon Shepard is leaving, the big news last week at the end of the year, leaving the factory, Longhorn factory team.
I think that's our factory something. Yeah, factory team.
But it's not like, they obviously aren't calling that the house car.
Right. So it all differs, right? So I think, and this is all kind of based on knowledge, kind of seeing it, right? Viewing it from a distance. But I think in a situation like that, that's the Riggs Shepard team, or what, they're separating now, but it was the, Brandon Shepard and the Riggs Motorsports combined team. And then Longhorn was giving them support, to develop
factory support.
And that's why I think it was the factory support team or whatever you want to call it. I don't think there might've been a deal there like, hey, in exchange for you giving us feedback, they gave them, I don't know, I'm just guessing, but a deal on cars or supplied the cars,
there's incentive there.
There's surely some incentive, and then they provide the feedback and test things and all that.
My point though is I feel like a lot of people, I don't know if I want to say the casual fan, probably casual fan. Yeah. They see a headline, Brandon Shepard to drive the factory team Longhorn car, or Brandon Shepard out at the end of the year at the factory Longhorn car. Like, they think house car just like Rocket. Right. Where, in my estimation, my opinion, that's the only anymore. That's the
only one I know of that works that way.
Where it's basically a team, and we don't even know this for sure because you don't know the inner workings of these teams and these chassis brands. But it comes across as a team that is
operated by
the chassis.
Yeah, that's very rare, I think, in anymore. Other than, like you said, Rocket, even Longhorns. Best
I think Barry Wright we saw.
Yeah, it's not done that way. It's more of a collaborate. It's all I feel like, other than Rocket, mostly it's a collaborative effort to improve the race team, but also to provide feedback to the chassis
which
brand.
is what Joseph, the Hunt the Front race team, is doing with Capital. Basically, it's a, like you said, collaborative effort where we know that part of this is we have to be willing to share what we're doing with, basically everyone at Capital is going to know, if we ran well or go run well somewhere, they're going to know why.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think that's interesting. A lot of people kind of overlook that all right, Brandon Shepard out at Longhorn factory team. And it's like, all right, who's going there? Well, whoever's going there has to be willing to share all that information with Longhorn.
Yep.
Then allow Longhorn to do what they will with it. Now, if Longhorn chooses to give that to anyone that's buying a Longhorn, that's up to you know what I mean? But you got to know, if you're driving that car, the Longhorn factory car, team car, that whatever you stumble on, is probably
it may not even be stumble on. You work hard to figure out on your program. You've got to now share that with the rest of Longhorn. In theory, right? I guess what you're getting at there is that a turn off?
A hard no for a lot of people.
Yes.
So I've seen a lot of speculation as to who's going to be the next. I guess with the announcement that Shepard was leaving, they also made it clear that that team, that factory-supported Longhorn deal, is continuing with some sort of collaboration with Riggs Motorsports. Right. So then the question is immediately, well, who's going to drive that car? And it's like, I don't know. There's a lot of speculation, but I just don't know. I don't know. I don't see the guys that are winning.
Yeah.
The top, guys, Pierce, RTJ, Moran, Davenport, obviously. Like, I don't know if they
want to share their information.
You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
I don't know.
Come take a look at our setup notes.
That's their here. Make this your standard for all Longhorns.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this is my opinion. Like, could totally be off base here, but I just like when you look at that and you say, well, who's going to be the next guy in the Longhorn deal? I don't know. How do you go get a top 5? Top 10 driver?
And that's the thing is you got to remember is if it's not like the Rocket One team where basically you're stepping in as driver for a race team, which has if you're a race team like Riggs, they're footing the bill, I would imagine, of that team. Yeah. Now, like you said, if they figure out something and can go win a lot of money, they got to give that, in theory, give that secret away. So I don't think and we don't know. Like
we're speculating.
You were speculating, but you hear things and you get there's this idea that Ricky Thornton Jr. has been the best in the sport for the past year and a half, 2 years now, however long it's been. Because one, he's a great driver, but also him and Anthony Burrows found something, right? And
it appeared that way as soon as O'Neal goes to that team. And is immediately, it looked like when that
whatever they found stayed in that car.
Yeah, and then it's like, but so does RTJ, because they're the top 2 guys. What was it, like the first 3 or 4 races after that whole switch up back in whenever that was? They were the top. They were first and second. So it appeared that was the situation.
So the point being is, I agree. I think why would you want to freely give that away, right? If you feel like you're capable of going out and developing your own program and finding your own speed, why would you want to sign up, to essentially give it away unless, the incentive is, really, really good. But I'm guessing, considering these guys are running their own operations, in that situation, I don't think it's as,
it just seems
like
you
think.
The best Longhorns the last, since there's been I guess McCready was the first sort of, this iteration of the factory team. It was McCready and the
Taylor Motorsports.
Yes, that was like and was that when he won the Lucas Oil team?
I think it was. He was part of the factory team.
Even then, he wasn't the fastest Longhorn.
No, he was the most consistent on Lucas that year. Yeah,
I don't know. I just feel like the top 4 or 5 Longhorns are doing their own thing, and they're not sharing that info.
Exactly.
With,
Longhorn, the chassis.
Whereas brand. Rocket, the fastest Rocket is the Rocket One.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean?
So who ends up in the Longhorn? I feel like that's where we're going. So who's going to be?
I don't know. I don't know. I know there's a lot of rumors out there. I know some people have thrown out RTJ, but he seems like he's in a good spot, and you give that team, a little bit of time to gel the Kohler bunch and all that, and Madden. I don't know. I don't know. You're more in tune with the rumors than I am.
I mean, I've heard rumors. So far, the ones I kind of knew about some of the stuff that's played out well in advance. of you know, the leak of the
that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, of that.
Leak.
But
how do we have all these leaks? It's not like this sport is huge.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. About talking about Shepard. I saw that it was floating around Facebook, that
screenshot of, or his letter.
Yeah, his letter he had. You know, it was on Facebook the day before, and then when Shepard actually finally shared it, Brandon Shepard did. He said something at the end about leaks and it being their livelihood, and it's like, how does that get out? Like, how do you let that? Like, you have to know who the small amount of people who have that.
Well,
anyway,
I mean, yeah, there's another topic, but it goes through so many people, especially, you know, I know there's a lot of marketing people involved with, you know, what Shepard Riggs bunch, you know, that's how they bring in all those dude wipes and, you know, all the different Black Rifle, all the sponsorships. And so it has to go through some approval process or some feedback loops there. And, I don't know. If it was something, you know, I'm sure they could get to the bottom of it, but at the end of the day,
but at the end of the day too, like, I felt like there were a lot of rumblings about him.
Yeah. Well, again, it had been mentioned, you know, and you hear a lot of things, you never know what's true, but there had been enough rumblings about that it was like, okay. And the performance wise, that he might be looking to do something different, or they might, I don't know how it came about, but yeah, it's, it's interesting, I think, to see how that plays out and where we're headed as, you know, what the factory support means and everything. We know kind of what it means for front to front and Capital, and, you know, what we're doing.
We're working to be fast, but at the same time, we're working to make Capital better as well. Yeah. Like, we're in a combined effort to make our race team, our race cars fast, and then whatever we, you know, hopefully do that and accomplish, well, that information is going back to Capital to improve Capitals.
Exactly.
And that works the other way too. And I think let's be honest, Shane's run really well lately. Yeah. And, you know, part of the incentive for us to be in this deal is that Joseph is getting that information that Shane has. It's a two-way communication. Yep. And Capital works that way a lot with their guys. It's more of a group team effort. Going back to Marshall, you know, it was when we got in Capitals in 2019? Yeah, when we started the YouTube channel, because we knew there was a flow of information there that wasn't really coming anywhere, you know.
And that's what this sport's about. If you're not, you know, either highly, you know, knowledgeable about this stuff on your own and understand it and really know, you know, the adjustments to make, or you don't have a crew chief, you know, on your team, you know, like RTJ and Anthony Burrows and that bunch there, like, you're going to be looking for feedback. You're going to be looking for support, right? And information. And, you know, sometimes that comes with Capital. That seems to come from Capital. You know, you see a lot of these Longhorn guys will get their car and then they go to someone else for, you know, that information. Yeah. You know, all the chassis kind of do that. But, it's an interesting dynamic for sure.